Yeah, that's locked up. Totally locked up. Because that's actually broken off where that guide pin should be. Yeah, what do you think about that? It's supposed to be straight. Alright, let me show you how ugly everything is. I noticed something. Alright, here's a close-up of the ball joint. Right here. It's pretty bad. Alright, literally the first bolt that I took off, and I don't know what's going on in there, but the stud, yep. So I don't know if that's about to be a pattern. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pull off, oh yikes, this A-arm is looking bad. I need to verify if that bolt's about to break or not, because I don't want to send this thing out and get somebody killed. So yeah, we're gonna pull the lower shock bolt. We're gonna pull the upper A-arm, and we're replacing the tie rod in, so we got to pull that anyway to get this knuckle off. Doing the bearing and the knuckle. We're gonna do brake pads. I think the other side, it just needs bolts, because this side actually still kind of works. So the system, you know, is tied together. The system works. We'll redo this brake line to where it's not rubbing on this rotor. And then yeah, we're gonna pull this off, and then whatever happens, happens. I might try to bend this out a little bit, because that's, I can tell that that's just, there's that bushing getting sheared from that crazy angle. The fact that it doesn't wiggle, it's not like ruined it yet, so we might be able to salvage that. So without further ado, let's get this brake off first. Peel back the layers here to see what's going on. Okay. One and 1/16. Look at that. It's missing a guard right here. It got ripped off. There's one of the bolts for it, and there's the other one, and there's a piece of the metal that's left over. Oh wow, look at this. There's no outer race or outer cage for that bearing. It's got the snap ring in there, right? So how did that fall out? How does that even happen? Look at that. Guarantee you that that race is just seized. This axle, it's going to be a big old bitch. So, I'm going to grab my piece of wood and I guess whop it and then keep going. Moving. I don't think we can go in any further. It's all like jammed up now. Oh. Gonna have a collection of those when this is over. Probably what I'm gonna do is pull that snap ring and then let all these ball bearings fall out so the inner cage has room to kind of come out. I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. It looks rusted, so I don't think the impact's even gonna break it loose. I'm pretty sure the shock is bent. So I can see a castle nut in here. There should not be a castle nut on there. It should be a self locker. And then these should be a 17 on the nut and a 12 on the bolt head. That one's not 17. God. All right, that's a good sign. So most likely what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to mash in this right here instead of taking all that off. It's got a bolt missing anyway, but a lot of times that hits right there. See? It hits there. It won't go in. So what we're going to do, to save a little time, is we're just going to flatten that and get rid of this little lip right here, which you can see looks like somebody cut it already, but this needs to get folded over. All right, so our upper is done. Is it zip tied? Yep. there's a little piece of the puzzle. Let's see if this is going to come out now. Nice. So we got that off. And this race right here is moving, which tells me that I'll be able to get like a 3-jaw puller on here and pull this race off if I have to, instead of cutting it, grinding it, or whatever. Look at that. It's like a piece of the cage with the bearing. Let's get that back in there so we don't hit it. Let's not make it worse. Just like that. Man, it's almost like I've done this before. All right, so now we got this monstrosity to where we can at least work on it on a workbench. Huh. Well, that wasn't really very climactic, was it? Well, that's it for the disassembly. We're going to go ahead and get these tie rod ends off, since I have full access to that. That's just 2 bolts, and then I'll do the other side and I'll meet you guys in there on the workbench. What I'm going to go ahead and do, because this can become a major complication at the very end, is just like, for example, look at that. That's never coming out. That's for the slide. Oh, yep. See, we already got a problem. Is these pins that hold these brake pads in, they can strip. So you want to dig all the dirt out of them first, and then make sure that these aren't going to be a problem. So those aren't a problem, but yeah, it's dented right there, so even if you did get that brake broken loose, it's just going to jam up, and that needs to move. So he needs a new caliper, because I don't think it's even worth trying to mess with that and fight that. Yeah, this should be moving. Yeah, that's locked up. Totally locked up. And then this right here, this boot is actually torn. Look at that, there's mud flying out of it. That should be brake grease inside of there. Okay, well, we're added to the list then, I guess. It is what it is. All right, and I did some closer inspecting, and this side, it was like zip tied up in a way to where I didn't look at it, and I should have looked at it, because that's actually broken off where that guide pin should be. Also, the brake line is cut through, I'm pretty sure, like 2 of the layers. Not the one that you can probably see, that's just like a cover, but I can see 2 different layers inside of there. So this brake line is actually connected to the other brake line, and it's just got a fitting Can you even see this? Yeah. There's just like a fitting right here, and it's got like a block in it, and it acts as the T without being like an actual T. I mean, it is a T, but it's just one line with a hole in it, basically. So we're looking into getting like all of this as a bundle, and just replace the whole thing, flush the brake fluid, purge the master cylinder out with fresh fluid, and just redo the whole thing. But yeah, this is too far gone. I can't work with that. I can't undo that. I think I showed this already, but this is stripped out beyond. I can't do anything with that. It's dented in over here. It's gonna break a chunk off or something. I smacked on this with a hammer. The guide pins are seized, so it is what it is. It was only $50 for like the whole thing, the listing, and it looked like it was in good shape. So we're gonna keep moving forward with what we got. We can do this later. Yeah, what do you think about that? It's supposed to be straight. It's supposed to look about like this. So I used one of these, is like $50-$60. For now, what we need to do is get that out of there, and this one is probably going to be seized. Pickle fork. Wonder who named that thing. There we go. This is cast steel, not aluminum. You can see where somebody's done this before. Dented this up. But you can hit this since it's cast steel. There we go. And then this should drive out that way. And it's not going to come easily because this is like all rusted. And absolutely do not heat this up unless you put a slit in this and open this up, because what can happen is it builds up heat in here and pressure, and if that ball, if it's building pressure on this backside, and then from like the grease, and if it's got like a plastic cup in there, it's trying to push this part of it out, it builds up enough pressure, and pow, it'll shoot off like a bullet, and it'll sound like a gunshot going off right in front of your face, and it'll put a hole in your ceiling and crack your floor upstairs. So don't ask me how I know that, but that's the story that came with the house. So it did not even make a seam. I think what I'm going to do before I even fight this is I'm going to try to bend this out a little bit. And I'm not even sure how I'm going to do that yet. My vise already has a little crack in it right there. We did something to it. That right there is wanting to flatten out though. I don't know if I have the right stuff to rig this up in the press, because this needs to get bent down. All right, so here's what I'm thinking. This is 3/4 inch steel. and this is hooked in over here, so that's going to kind of like lock in and try to butt up against there. And this is where it's bent this way, so we're going to try to bend it down a little bit. So we're going to take, this is 1/2 inch sheet, probably weighs like 30 or 40 pounds. We're going to put this in on the right here and then push down on it. And hopefully this will level out when I start pressing it. Not really, but it doesn't matter. Alright, what is it doing? It's bending something. I'm not really sure what. It didn't bend it where I wanted it to, though. We're making progress. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna cut this off. All right, here's the first attempt. A bunch of 3/4 inch plate under here to support it, and then these two on the ends to try to push it down. I'm gonna try to get it started like, you know, with this lined up a little better, and then we're gonna take this big plate and put it on there. I don't know if I can get you an angle for you to see it bending or not. I have to go in like that. Okay, it's bending it. Okay, it bent that, but this one's not over far enough. This needs to be like right on that, if I can get that in there. I think. Let's take it over here and let's size it up to the other one. It's basically an inverted version of this. So we just need to pull that out a little bit. So that's just cooked like that, basically. Which isn't a horrible deal, because we'll just force it into place and then it'll probably kind of straighten itself out. We need this part right here to kind of line up. That's pretty good. So I just cut some angle iron and welded it in. Should work just fine. They weren't using the skid plates anyway, So they think they're getting skid plates, and I mean, this is pretty much lined up where the other one was. Yeah, he'd be able to just drill a hole in that and run a bolt and nut through it. Alright, we're going to try to just give them a good whopping. But these, like, are flushed all the way. So you can't, like, get a socket here and put it in the press or anything. So we're first going to try to just give it a good whopping. And then if I don't like the whopping, then we're going to cut this off, because this is going to be dangling around real bad. And then we'll have a flatter surface to hit on. So, and we can like use like a punch, to where when we drive a punch in there, and the punch like dents this out, we'll want to kind of pull it in as it dents it out, kind of help us out a little bit. So let's get the bigger hammer out. And I got a piece of wood here with a hole in it, just so it can. Didn't even break the seal on the dirt. Not even a little bit. Alright, so I cut it off pretty far down. I don't want to hit it right there and then roll off the edge. I'm going to try to knock this cup out of the bottom first. Unless I cut it deep enough, I can just do this. Because once we get this out of here, this is the part that can be a projectile. There we go. So now we can just heat this up. We can just blast this with heat. Which is what we're going to do. Go. One. So the new ball joint, there's nothing really to it. We're just going to fish it in. Trying to get this boot to squish is like the worst part, because it wants to try to fold over and maybe even like rip. And then 1 5/16 socket. Which I could have just put in the press. It was unnecessary. Which is not wanting to work with me. And I popped that little thing off, so what we can do is, since I popped this little ring off, let me grab my close-up camera here. You can go about this 2 different ways. That little ring right there we can just take that off and then just put it back on if it's fighting you real hard. So I'll just take this little like screwdriver that I turned into a pick, lift this up like that, just walk it around in a circle like that, right? And then we'll just put that back on. But now I should be able to take this boot. Take that boot off safely like that, which we could have done before as well, driving it in there if we knew that we were having problems. So then we'll take our little ring clip here and we're just gonna basically start it on here the way that we took it off. Just get one little coil over, kind of get it close to where it needs to go. And use something to just walk it around while you're holding it. There we go. Yeah, I got a little spot right there that needs addressed. There we go. OEM. So those are ready to go. Now we get to do the fun part. Before we get into this, dump the mud out of these things because all right, so Grizzly 660 upper ball joints welded in for some reason. It's going to be the BJ 114, and I'll show you exactly which one it is. These, when you weld them, if you're not super careful and let all the heat dissipate, you don't let all the heat dissipate, then it melts the cup and they'll be ruined in the first ride. And so these are Grizzly 700 ball joints that are for 2009, 2010. And the reason why that's important is that that's the same taper as the knuckle. I went through quite a few of these to find this one. So I'll show you the listing real quick. Right here. 0.38 inches on the top, 2.63 on that. But yeah, it says 2 upper ball joints for Yamaha Grizzly 700 F5 four-wheel drive YFM 700 2009 2010. Caltrick. Gotta love to hate them.
The audio in the next couple minutes got ruined from fans and respirator. It was just pretty bad. So I'm just going to talk over what I was doing, how I did it. Basically, our starting point, 4.5 inch grinder, cutoff wheel, zip it in until it bottoms out on the spindle. If you had like a 6 inch grinder, you could just lop the whole thing off. But with a 4.5 inch, basically you get to this point and then you need to make a straight cut down to chop it off to where you can come in at like a better angle. And what you're trying to do is just get it like as flush as possible as a starting point, just so it's just less material for you to have to cut out next. And then so the next step would be either swap to a grinding disc or keep using the cutoff wheel, I guess. And then you're trying to dish it out to where you can get that ball out of there. And that's mainly for the purpose of just having less material to grind. So once you can pop that ball out, pop the ball out, and then you keep going, you keep dishing it out, and you're looking for a seam to form where basically you've grinded out the weld and you can see the housing where it's meeting the control arm and it's no longer welded as one piece anymore. And once you can start seeing that seam on the majority of it, like I would say at least like 3/4 of it, then you're ready to flip it over and do the other side. Now the other side sucks. This is by far like the most difficult part of it, is grinding out this bottom side. And on the 660, like anything that's welded in is going to have potentially like a different like curve in the control arm or whatever. But on this one, the 660, like the curve makes it to where if you use a cutoff wheel, you're just going to chop too much into that control arm, which you could do and weld it back up, I guess, like in a pinch. But I have access to some Dremel cutoff wheels, so that's what I'm using, and that's what I'd recommend because they do work and they do this job relatively well, just because of their size and the angle that you have to work with. So the outside's cake. The outside's not that big of a deal. You have, plenty of angles, but the inside where that curve is on the control arm is the tricky part. So basically what you're wanting to do is you're just wanting to put straight lines. Don't be trying to get all fancy and put like a curved cut in it or anything. Just cut it out straight lines like this and chop it down deep enough and at an angle to where it's going to penetrate the weld. And then once you do that, you are going to start beating on it back and forth, and you'll be able to see it start moving a little bit and kind of get an idea where you need to go back and grind it out a little bit, touch it up, grind it out a little bit, and then finally you can get it knocked out. There it is. Alright, let me show you how ugly everything is. No fancy camera work or anything. So, that's been flattened. Just stick a screwdriver in there and straighten that out. Missing material right here. That's fine. I'm going to add weld to that. Literally cracked the metal. That's fine. Can add weld to that. I think that's just paint that cracked there from it flexing and bending. This side's actually pretty clean. So here's the remainder of the cup that we were trying to get out. So then we get our new ball joint. It's basically going to fit down in there, and we're going to utilize this lip right here. So I believe this should probably be the design of like a lower, where it goes through and then we put that clip right here. But instead, this is an upper, and we're going to use that lip to weld. As you can see,
we're halfway there already. So we'll do that, and we're going to pull that boot off. And trust me, don't think you're MacGyver and tap this out and try to put a Zerk in there. There's like no room at all for, you'll have to customize the Zerk, and you'll have to make the Zerk like one thread, and you're going to drill into that nylon cup and probably crack it. Alright, so we used a burr bit. We don't need to take all that off. What we need to do is make it fit. And when I squared this up a little bit, hi buddy, squared that up a little bit to where that sits basically flush, spread this out, got that gap back in there, and we're ready to take this boot off and weld. Alright, we got 2 tacks just to kind of get things started. We're going to wait until this thing is absolutely cool. And I'm gonna do the other one, tack the other one, and let this cool, let it sit in front of this fan, and we're gonna wait for it to be cold. And then the next thing I'm gonna do, I'll show you, is I'm gonna do a weld, probably about like this. That's it. And then do it on the other one, then let it cool. And then I'll come over here, probably do this side, and then do this side, and I'll do like a 4 points, and then we'll fill it in. And we'll just do it like this much at a time, and that's it. And absolutely do not play with this while that's hot. I'll be pumping it, I'll be playing with it. And we'll let this thing get absolutely cold to the touch every time we put a little weld on it. Alright, that's how much weld I put on it. And I'm just going to do the same thing over and over. Let it get cool to the touch, like absolutely cold, do something else, and then just stick that much heat into it and repeat. So that's, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, 8 times 2. So, it's going to take like half hour, 45 minutes of just a little bit here, a little bit there, and waiting. Here's what my sections are looking like. So I guess I got 3 on that one, 4 on this one. That one didn't do good, and I just stopped. You don't want to, normally you just go back over it, but you got to think, you're on like a time crunch. You got X amount of time. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Fix it the next time. Alright, there's the top done. Now we need to do the bottom. This is a little trickier because all this is exposed. So you get you a sacrificial socket. Fits over that. Where that boot can still go down in here, and it's going to clip like right there. So we want to protect that. So we'll put that on there like that. And then just like the factory, it just had a weld right here and a weld back there. So we're going to do 4 spots. We'll do this much here, and then 2 in the back, and then we're done. There is the finished product. And so the real test, there should have been minimal boiling of this grease. The real test is to see if this joint is still tight. So that's what you want, is for this joint to still be tight. If it's not tight, you can you could go ahead and run it, but you'll be doing this again probably after a couple rides. So these turned out really good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a paper towel and some compressed air, and I'm going to try to blow out this grease. This grease has been, heated up and basically melted. And I'm going to pack in some grease. I'm going to just blow out what I can here. And and then I'm going to try to pack in some grease, and then I'm going to pack it into the boot whenever I put the boot back on. By the way, I found this on the floor. This is what we're trying to not to melt. The fact that the originals had a bead all the way around it and this isn't melted makes me think what they did is they put this piece in first, welded it, and then a machine plunged that in there, like into this part, forced that into there, and then filled it, however they make ball joints, and did that after. Because there's no way that you could run a full bead around that and not melt this stuff.
But we still got to get these inner races or outer races out of this hub to do the wheel bearings, and just by looking at that rust, it's going to be a battle. So, like, we could come in here with like a chisel and a hammer and beat on this. But what we're going to do is we're going to run a bead of weld. We're going to run a weld around there and run it around the second part, the second groove, and we're going to go at least like half moon here and then like half moon here, and essentially what it's going to do is whenever it cools off, that weld's going to pull it in and shrink this race. It's going to suck it in a little bit to where that'll come right out. Alright, so here's what I did is just ran some beads on the inside, and then I built it up in 2 spots. That way, if I need to, I get a bearing in there, and the bearing will catch on those beads, and I'll press that through in the press. For now, what we're going to do is we're just going to grab like a big chisel and a hammer, and we're going to try to just pop it a couple times and see what happens. Yeah, it already shifted. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that gap. It's already shifting now. So then I just got to figure out a way to raise it up enough to get that out. See if this one moves. Yep, that one moved too. See that gap right there. So then I just gotta find something that's that size-ish to where these can drive through the rest of the way. Probably my plates over there that came with the press. Alright, so here's the setup. It's got the circles or whatever, right? Then we got a little bearing in there, and then a big crank rod, a piece of flat, and then we're just going to see. There it is. That would have been bad. Look how much rust is on that. And you can see all the scoring. That thing was locked in there.
Here's the setup for the front knuckles. Basically, I just noticed this hole looks like crap. Basically, the front knuckle, if I were to stack the steel up, it doesn't sit totally flush, and we don't want like high spots, potentially like cracking one of these entire ears off. So I just got a piece of wood. That way it squishes into the wood and it'll kind of fit form itself to distribute load evenly. And then we just got a piece of flat on there. I don't have this one tapped in or anything, so I need to make sure I get this one lined up a little better. There it goes. About that high. Put him on there. Looks good. Yeah, you think you can get them off?
Do we have to use this?
Yep. So you got to turn it.
Like this?
Yeah, probably that way. One of them's left-handed threads and one of them's regular threads.
No, this is one way.
Yeah, hold on. Let's just do this. Now, how about that?
That
Don't let it hit you in the face.
we won't. Because I need a wool jacket down here.
Yeah, it's cold, isn't it?
Yep.
You're getting wobbly, about to come out.
A little bit.
That's how you know it's gonna come out soon.
My arse is down.
Oh, it is, huh?
So where is it going?
Oh man. I don't know if you're cut out for that kind of work. Good job. Look at that. What is all that in there? What is it, Crusties? Got some Crusties on it. And then
Daddy go down.
Daddy will get this one.
Hey, Daddy. Hey, Daddy can get some money. Take me a help for you.
I can give you some money for helping me.
No, Daddy, you can get some money. That if you just want to do it just all by yourself, and when I can sew a whole bus, and you have me help you, we'll take out a whole week.
Yeah, you helped me a lot. Now it's gonna go way quicker.
Yep, and me will get this for you.
Alright, before we put this back together, we're gonna check this differential fluid. It's not black. Stinks, but it's not black, so didn't look frothy on the zip tie. So we'll just top that off instead of changing it. Alright, you think this thing's gonna fit? I may or may not have had to make a modification. That's actually an important dimension to get right. we labeled our lower ball joint oddball bolts. These aren't as bad as I thought. So what they did is they made it to where there's a shoulder that's riding on that ball joint instead of the threads, which is crazy because some of the OEM bolts that I've seen before just run a bolt in and the threads will be riding on the bushing or something. So now that everything is kind of in a relaxed state where the suspension's decompressed, then we'll tighten everything down. Yeah, I guess we got to figure out this stud, don't we? Just put one of these on here. There we go. Hold it right in. Actually see something on here. There's the outer cage for the outer seal. And we do not have confirmation to order the brakes and the brake line yet. So I'm just gonna get it back together to where it can be rolled, because I need to roll it on out of here and do something else. We can come back in. We don't have the tie rods yet either. Those are delayed on the shipping for some reason. Let's say that CV joint's probably about shot. All right. Aye. Bullshit after bullshit. Putting these tie rod ends on, or tie rods on. Got the new ends finally. And I was just kind of lining it up and, kind of getting it like this before I put the tire back on and do it. And then I noticed something. Oh my God, focus. So that rotor is bent. That's the side that got the whole thing ripped off of it. So this is my rotor that was in scrap, and it's mostly good. It got metal on metal. It's a little warped, but it's not bent. So we're gonna throw that on real quick, I just got to pop this axle nut off, and then there is that stripped out? Oh, I'm not looking at the wrong one. Just some Allen heads on there. Just put the Allen on impact and zip those off, and then Loctite those back on there. We're just going to switch this out real quick. Alignment. Get you something like this. Not a bent piece of wood. Line it up to where if you're on a knobby in the front, you need to be on a knobby in the back. Make sure your gap's even front and back of the other tire. Sometimes the front's wider than the back, sometimes the back's wider than the front.